Hello everyone, welcome back to LITMAILS. Now we already have a video on this topic, an explanation video, both in Hindi and English. If you want, you can go check that out before attempting the questions in this video. And before starting this video, I would like to quickly mention the strategy and approach that we will have towards this video. And as you all know, literature is very vast. We have stories, poems, essays and lot of things to cover. तो अगर हम हर चीज़ का 100 MCQs करने बैठ जाएं, then it is never ending, it's never going to end. So what we have done here is that I have picked some 12 questions centered around the very central themes of this essay, and we will analyze each question very quickly and meticulously so that you also know what is happening in or around the topic, ताकि जिस भी एंगल से क्वेश्चन आए you can attempt it. Let's begin with the first question over here, and if you have any very fundamental basic doubts regarding this essay, समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कुछ, then please trust me, watch the video and the previous video on this, and I'm sure all your doubts will be cleared. So here on the screen we have the first question. If you like, then please pause, and if you want, you can answer by yourself or we can do it together. So the first question says that in the beginning of the essay, according to Bacon, why do some speakers join a discourse? Also, we proceed, I will be mentioning how to approach these MCQs or questions, which is going to be very helpful. So make sure you stick around. So the first option we have is to connect with the audience, to show off their incisive intelligence, and to arrive at a sound judgment. Now the first thing is, every time you get a question like this, especially MCQs in literature, please make sure you do not analyze them according to what you think or according to your intelligence or brain. You always have to analyze a question as per your text. So the text says कि in the beginning of the essay, according to Bacon. So जो आप समझते हैं वो सही है, वो सही नहीं हो सकता है. जो whatever text में लिखा है वही सही है. So here the second answer, to show off their incisive intelligence, is correct, because जब ऐसे शुरू होता है, clearly mentions that some people simply join a discourse सिर्फ ये show off करने के लिए कि उनके पास इतना intelligence है कि वो इस discussion में participate कर सकते हैं और उनको कोई balanced judgment की नहीं पड़ी रहती है. So the other two options are incorrect here. In fact, these type of speakers, they try to dominate a judgment more. I will also be inserting slides that from where the questions have been picked. So yeah, take a screenshot or write them down somewhere. Let's move on to the second question. What type of poverty does Bacon talk about in a speaker? Option A, knowledge in specialization. B, wealth. C, knowledge in variety. It is a slightly tricky question, but it's very easy. Knowledge in, मतलब कुछ ऐसे speakers होते हैं जो उनका बहुत specialization, उनको एक area में बहुत knowledge होता है. Let's say if there is a lawyer, तो उसको legally बहुत specialization है. He knows a lot about law and his area of specialization, right? So उसको उसी के बारे में ही पता है. बट अगर ही कीप्स ऑन टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट, देन इट्स ऑब्वियस दैट जो लिसनर है और जो ऑडियंस है, दे आर गोइंग टू बी वेरी बोर्ड. द person who's listening to them is not going to like it after a certain period of time. So जो लोग का नॉलेज में वेरिएशन नहीं है, वेराइटी नहीं है, उस टाइप के पॉवर्टी को यहाँ पर बेकन मेंशन करते हैं इन अ स्पीकर, which implies to the fact that a speaker must have knowledge in little bit but in all areas, rather than talking about one type of thing. तो वो बहुत long and monotonous हो जाता है. So that is the speech poverty that Bacon speaks about here. We have the third question. Which of the following qualities is considered honorable on the part of the speaker? To be accommodative, to allow other participants to engage in the discussion, and to dominate the discussion. The answer is pretty obvious here. We have some options here. अगर एक speaker discussion को dominate करता है, then it is a total no in a speech scenario. So the first two are correct, 1 and 2, which is option D over here, which means जब भी एक speaker बोल रहा है, he should have space for other speakers to listen, other people to participate in his speech. Please make sure you understand that speech does not mean कि एक podium है और speaker बात कर रहा है. Here the speaker means any person that is speaking and is being listened by other people. So whenever a good speaker speaks, there is also space for other participants to engage. Question number 4. Which among the following is not a criteria of good discourse, speech or conversation? A. Repetitive citation for emphasis, variety of thoughts. C. Enthusiasm of the speaker. And D. Adding relevant facts, examples and anecdotes. So ऐसे situation में when almost everything sounds or feels correct, a question like this, just a person that has read and understood the text nicely will be able to answer this question. In the explanation also we have discussed that if Joe person is giving a discussion or participating in a discussion or a speech, if he is very repetitive with whatever he says, it's going to be very boring, no one is going to listen to him. So बहुत trickily यहाँ पर option दिया है for emphasis, but it is wrong. Repetitive citation मतलब repetitive words और बातें बोलना is very boring. So as the question says, not a criteria of good speech. So the answer is 1. तो repetitive citation गलत बात है. So it is not a criteria. जो बाकी options है B, C, D, they are a criteria of good speech. So make sure you give good reading of the question also. Now, question number 5. What according to Bacon were more words of caution for the speaker? Always focus on the question that says according to Bacon. It is according to Bacon, Francis Bacon, not according to you. So the options: he must always stand straight in front of his audience, must not pass any derogatory remarks, must be well dressed to impress the audience, and should be as soft spoken as he can. Well, उन्होंने soft spoken के बारे में actually mention किया है, but that is later in the essay. In a question like this, you have to answer the question that is closest. Okay, sometimes both 2 or 3 options might also sound right, also might be right, but you have to tick the answer that is the best. So here particularly for this question, जो caution that Bacon has mandated, that is we must not pass any derogatory remarks. और ऑप्शन ए और ऑप्शन डी सी तो टोटली मेंशन किया ही नहीं गया है, और डी के बारे में मेंशन किया गया है, बट इट इज़ नॉट अ कॉशन, राइट. सो हियर derogatory remarks पास करना कॉशन है. Question number 6. What does the satirical vein mean? Personal attack on others, passing rude derogatory comment to others, thinking of oneself as the best, and having wit and intrusive insight. Now, especially if you're a literature student, you have come across the word satire, which means basically means humor. So there are some people that are very, they have humor by nature, and they don't mean to be rude or anything, but that is just in their nature. But here, what does this particular thing imply? Satirical vein. It's the same, just like any literary meaning. It is option D, having wit and intrusive insight. बहुत लोगों में they are very witty, they're very intelligent, and they give some remarks or comments that are full of humor. So even here, that's exactly what it means. Question number 7. Which among the following qualifies as a great learner? Who among the following? So a well-read person, inquisitive speaker, an admired writer, an attentive speaker. Again, there is no mention of a well-read person and an admired writer in the essay. The entire essay is centered around the speaker. So यहीं पर ही options A and C cancel हो जाते हैं. Coming to B and D. Now option D, attentive speaker is also implied actually, क्योंकि जो person attentive है, a person should, but it's majorly with a person that is listening. So again, this answer is nearly correct but not exactly correct. We'll go with inquisitive speaker, a speaker that is curious to learn. A person कौन सीख सकता है better? जो curious है सीखने में, सिर्फ वही qualify करता है as a great learner. So you have to be very careful while answering questions like this. Question number 8. What kind of questioning must be avoided? Here are some certain statements. Questions that feel like interrogation, questions that are centered too deep around the subject, monopolizing questions, and difficult questions. हम straight away cancel कर देंगे difficult questions. It is not mentioned anywhere, and difficult questions जैसा कुछ होता नहीं है, वो subjective होता है. अगर आप किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन डिफिकल्ट लगता है, किसी को नहीं लगता है. प्लस देर इज नो मेंशन अबाउट इट, सो कैंसल स्टेटमेंट 4. देन वी हैव ऑप्शन 2, सेंटर टू डीप अराउंड द सब्जेक्ट. अगेन देर इज नो मेंशन ऑफ दिस इन द एसे. तो इट इज़ वेरी डायरेक्ट. स्टेटमेंट वन जो है, क्वेश्चंस दैट फील लाइक इंटरोगेशन. मतलब अगर कोई क्वेश्चन, अगर आप कोई स्पीकर को यू आर ट्राइंग टू क्वेश्चन देम एज इफ यू आर ट्राइंग टू टेस्ट देयर नॉलेज और द इंटेलिजेंस, it is something that should be avoided. So of course statement 1 is correct, we'll go with that. And statement 3 is monopolizing questions. मतलब कुछ ऐसे questions पूछना जिससे कि स्पीकर का सारा टाइम और एनर्जी एफर्ट कॉर्नर हो जाएगा, उस अपने आप को मोनोपलाइज कर देना इस सिचुएशन में. मतलब कि आप एक ऐसा कुछ पूछ लो जिससे अभी सारा डिस्कशन उसी के तरफ सेंटर हो जाएगा. सो कुछ वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड पूछना, कुछ वेरी मोनोपलाइजिंग करना इज नॉट correct. So that brings us to statement 1 and 3 that is correct, which is option C over here, and it has been mentioned in these lines. Please make sure you read the lines jisse the questions have been taken. It's very important because you have to understand these lines itself. We are talking about the explanation, we are breaking it down, but it is important you know from which lines these come from, right? Then we have question number 9. What is the importance of gaps during speaking? Option A, have food, eat, or refreshes memory. Option B. Option C, gives a break to the listeners. And option D, rest to the vocal cords. Of course, we straight away eliminate option A and D, because A and D का कोई mention नहीं है, vocal cords and food eating का कोई again mention नहीं है. We come to option B and C, which again seems closest. Yes, break to the listeners, but not exactly. Refreshes memory, yes. It makes you remember better, recall your points better, and it refreshes your memory. If you're constantly speaking, obviously एक point आएगा which is going to be extremely dull or long or monotonous भी हो सकता है, so that should be avoided. So here we have option B, refreshes memory. Let's come to question 10. On the screen, how often should one take part in discourses? Regularly, rarely, often, and seldom. Now here your आपने ऐसे का टेक्स्ट पढ़ा है या नहीं, हैव यू रियली रेड द टेक्स्ट, इज एक्चुअली पुट टू टेस्ट हियर. हाउ? बिकॉज some option is very it's almost the synonym of the question that has been given here. So the answer is seldom. Means not very regularly, not very oftenly, but sometimes, a person should take part in a discourse, which is seldom. And seldom is exactly the word as used by Bacon in the essay. Here you can see the line. So it is very important you read the text to pick up these particular words, because that is what will help you in literature. They will set a question around one word itself, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next question, number 11. How must the speech of a discourse be? एक डिस्कोर्स का स्पीच किस तरह का होना चाहिए? वेरी स्पेसिफिक, बी वेरी जनरल, सी वेरी पर्टिकुलर, एंड डी वेरी कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल. इट्स ऑफ कोर्स नॉट वेरी कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल. अगर एक स्पीच होना चाहिए वो बहुत इन जनरल नेचर होना चाहिए. अगेन द यूज ऑफ क्लोज वर्ड्स हैव बीन यूज्ड. ऑप्शन ए वेरी स्पेसिफिक and option C very particular. They are kind of close, but we'll go with the close, but both of them are not the answers, right? तो ही इनफैक्ट बेकन हैज़ मैंशनड कि एक स्पीच स्पेसिफिक नहीं होना चाहिए, शुड नॉट सेंटर अराउंड एनी पर्सन और थिंग स्पेसिफिकली. रादर एक स्पीच हमेशा वेरी इन जनरल होना चाहिए, इशू बेस्ड होना चाहिए, हर तरह के पर्सपेक्टिव्स और एंगल्स को कवर करना चाहिए. हेंस स्पीच शुड बी वेरी जनरल इन नेचर. Next question, last question is number 12. What type of speech loses its appeal? Slow, monotonous, good continued speech without a style, and long-winded. Now it's this is actually all the answers are correct, because option A, B and C, all of these are correct. This is just to tell you that किस तरह का speech will not last long or will lose appeal or interest among the listeners. And the particular lines from which this question has been picked has also been mentioned on the screen. Please look at the screen. So your task now as a student is you have to, in a copy, jot down the points where you write down all the qualities required for a good speaker and all the things that a speaker must avoid. The controversies, the derogatory remarks, the being too specific, etc., etc. उसको 2 columns बनाइए and separate them, because most questions will be centered around this around these qualities, etc. Apart from that, make sure you also read about the writer, because some questions might be linked with the background also. Like for example, when we mentioned here that a speech should not be derogatory, should not make fun of others, you should know कि Francis Bacon के time में freedom of speech was restricted, and that is why he wrote accordingly. So it is very important for you to know these things. And in this video, we have covered a very brief overall. I'm hoping that it has helped you even a little bit. Do let me know if it has, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you.